I did my paper on parents. I originally was going to focus on pressure that parents put under adolescents, but there wasn't a whole lot of research to generate a 10-page paper. So I just focused on parents and their effects in their students' life and how that relates to middle school in general. I did this research because I think it's important for us to understand the way parents communicate with their child, not only as teachers, but also because we're all young, and I think that most of us may have children in the future. I think so. And I think it's important for us to realize that when you think of having children, or maybe having children terrifies you, maybe that terrifies you, but when you think of people thinking of having children, what stage do they usually think of when they first think child?
Adolescence.
No, really? You think so?
The baby.
I do.
Baby.
Baby. That's what I do.
Baby. I mean, if we consider,
Raising a middle schooler.
If we consider a newlywed couple and they think of having a child, they'll think baby.
Yeah.
And oh, how cute they are, and they get bigger, and oh, they said their first word, and they're walking, and they're going along through life, and then some stuff happens in the middle. They go to high school, they do their sports, they have all these accomplishments, and then they're adults and they can take care of themselves. I think that parents, usually, when they consider having children, totally just skip over this level that happens in the middle. I don't think a lot of people think about that when they consider having children. So, we're going to look at this.
Well, you notice that they always say, I'm going to have a baby. They never said, I'm going to have a child.
I'm never
going
going
to
to have an adolescent.
I'm never going to
I'm going to have a baby.
Exactly. So just a kind of an overview, let's look at what parents dealt with then. So this is from Leave It to Beaver. Okay. This is the beaver and his brother. This was in the 50s. And when we think about children like this, we just think, oh, they're so cute. They're just so sweet. But we have to think what's going on during this time. This was before drugs were exploited. There was this whole culture. Everything happened. This was before a sexual revolution, before the civil rights movement. And even the jobs, the opportunities that these two boys had was just open. There was no restrictions, there was not a lot of talk about diseases, everything was just simple and sweet, and gee whiz, Mom. So now let's talk about what parents have to deal with now, what parents deal with now. We're talking about children who are exploited to the world, literally. They have technology, they have the media, they know everything that's going on. These children suck in all this information, all these things like sponges. They take it all in. They know that there's a pressure in the career world. They know that when they get older, they're not going to be able to maybe go into the job that they want to because it's too, what's the word I'm looking for? Competitive. They know all these things, these revolutions, the sexual revolution, the drugs, civil rights movement, all these things have already happened. They're aware of wars, Vietnam, things that are happening right now. And whereas we had Beaver, who was more like, oh, gee whiz, Mom. This is a picture from Little Miss Sunshine. This is Dwayne, right here. He's an adolescent. His first word in the movie is the F word. So I thought that was interesting. It's a great movie, by the way.
It is a good movie.
It's a great movie.
I watched it on the plane. Going to Japan.
So why are parents of adolescents today so crazy? Well, obviously, we've seen the movements from the 50s to today, so we got to think if parents were sweet back in the 50s, they're probably going to be just as crazy as their kids are today. This was, I found this from this woman, McAllen. How do you say that? They're less respectful of authority because they've gone through these times. Okay. They're angry. They're more educated about education. They know things that are going on. They're going to call them distrustful, activists. They're stressed, worried, fearful. Parents today are estranged, separated, divorced. They can be abusive. They're addicted, dysfunctional, and mentally ill parents. Just all these things, and just growing up in these different times in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Not to mention that there are also children at ages of 14 having more babies. So we have three major essentials that parents should keep in mind when raising children. One is a constant parenting style. The research that I went through found that the best parenting style was authoritative. This quote basically just sums up that the authoritative parenting style, parents who treat their children warmly, democratically, and firmly are more likely to have positive attitudes and beliefs about their achievements. And this needs to be consistent, because if it's not consistent, I mean, the adolescents are already going through such an inconsistent time of life anyway. Their parents need to keep them in line, need to keep them steady. There are parents who push their children too hard in school or sports or whatever it is. This can lead to perfectionism, and perfectionism can sometimes lead to maladaptive perfectionism, which impairs students to do anything. They can't sleep, they can't do sports, they can't eat, just because they're so worried about their academics. And perfectionism has a strong relationship with suicide among adolescents, to keep in mind. And then there are parents who don't push their children at all. This was an interesting fact I found. 11% of children 8 to 10 years old regularly cared for themselves. 40% of 12-year-olds did. So there's an incredible increase from just the ages of 10 to 12 of children who take care of themselves. Parents believe that when children reach an adolescence stage, that to care for themselves, they're taking on more responsibility, and it's a developmental thing. They don't realize that they need to be there for their children. It's also important to have the children keep a balanced life. It's absolutely, I mean, we all know life fluctuates so often, there's so many factors in it, but parents really need to keep this as steady and calm as they can for their middle school children. What else? There was a study, adolescents can deal with single stressors okay, but when they face several changes at one time is when there are problems. Children in deprived families exhibit lower social competence. Parents need to be there, I mean, just period. It said that even having a parent travel for work is as stressful as having a close relative die to an adolescent. So it's incredibly important for both parents to be there. And just the third thing is just parents need to give adolescents their time. In a study done, adolescents' biggest complaint was that the parent wasn't there enough for them. They had a lack of time to listen, they had a failure to appreciate the sincerity of the problems, and they were filtering out problems that they didn't think were important. So no matter what the issue, parents need to sit down and listen to the child, even if they don't think it's that big of a deal. Adolescents sometimes hate their parents because this is the time when they feel the need to challenge, ignore, reject, and criticize their parents. This is why I wore fishnets and boots and listened to heavy metal when I was this age. I hate heavy metal now. And so this is a very difficult time, but parents need to really keep their cool and sympathize with the problems. This is another quote that I found. I need to speed this up. This is a great quote. Eye-rolling passes, but the protection that parental involvement confers lasts a lifetime. So even though the stage seems horrible, they'll get through it. Okay, the relationship it has with middle school is self-regulation, which refers to when a child can take care of themselves and take care of their own responsibilities. Self-regulation is strongly shaped by the quality of their relationships with their parents, which also relates to school. So if parents have such an important place in their student's life, they need to be involved. But what we see here, what the issue is that the rate of parental involvement declined from 2nd to 5th grade incredibly. Wow. There was a significant drop between elementary and middle schools, and it takes, as a teacher, you can't just, see a kid and say, well, I'll just do my best with this child. You see their parents, they're like, oh, they're crazy, there's no hope. They need to work together. He's like speaking on solid. I talk this fast anyway. So teachers need to be as patient with parents as possible. They need to know these certain things. Parents may be angry because there are learning or behavior problems at home, the erosion of values, lack of qualified or competent teachers. Sometimes they just deal with teachers that don't know what they're doing. Sometimes there's a lack of safety. And some of us have to realize that some parents have to settle for poor schools. So we need to keep all these things in mind when we're dealing with parents who seem angry or crazy. So, in conclusion, there's one place where parents and teachers need to see eye to eye at, and that's the fact that the child should always come first. Despite all the petty stuff and all these other things that are going on, the teacher and the parent need to realize that they need to work together because adolescents should always come first. So parents, love your adolescents. Oh!